Hey, Steve Mignani here. We're going to begin digging in on the project REM charger. Now, to bring you up to speed, this is now something like February 24th or 5th, something like that, 2022. But last fall, on October 13th, I bought this car from a Texas auction online. I was part of the auction actually, but I paid $5,000 for this 1962 Dodge Dart. This is a police car, 9 code in the VIN. It's an actual 4-door police car from the state of Texas. Now, my idea with this car is to pay respect to its police origins, and this is kind of a cool thing right here. This is actually the dealership brochure that was sent out from Dodge to dealers and or police departments to tell them about the police pursuit packages that were available. Now, these things back in 1962 were available with a slant 6, yes, or a 318 poly 2-barrel, a 318 poly 4-barrel, and the 361 4-barrel big block. This one happens to be the base 318 2-barrel poly. If it was a 361 4-barrel, I probably would keep it, leave it alone. I wouldn't do anything to it. I wouldn't want to molest it. And with that said, 2 transmissions were possible back in 1962, a 3-speed manual or the push-button torque flight. This one happens to be a push-button torque flight, a great transmission, and we're going to keep that, but we're going to have to change it. We'll get to that in a little while. But the great thing about this car is it also 1962 is the first year for the mighty Max Wedge. And here's Motor Trend right here, August of 1962, and this is the mighty Max Wedge debut. We see here 410 horsepower Dodge up top, and that's a reference to the arrival of the Max Wedge. Now, we all know that 1962 was kind of the year that Detroit went crazy with superstock engines. Now, a superstock engine is basically a big block with racing potential and racing parts baked in. The Chevy 409, the Ford 406, and the Mopar 413 Max Wedge. Plymouth called it the superstock, Dodge called it the Ram Charger. And a lot of that Ram Charger talk was about the Ram-tuned intake manifold. Had a cross ram, we can see it right down there. Basically 2 4-barrel carburetors. The passenger side carburetor fed the driver's side cylinder head and vice versa. And what you got was a slight supercharging effect at about 3,500 RPM. So basically the Max Wedge was a new thing for 62, but here's the rub. They were not available in police cars, and about 150 or so were built in 1962. But what I'm gonna do with this car is replicate a Max Wedge 4-door. But what I'm not going to do is get into restoring the car. It's going to be pretty raw. In fact, this chalky white paint right there, that chalk comes off when I look at it. That's going to stay put. I'm not going to clean the car. I'm not going to wash it, but it's going to shine from the inside out. And that's really my plan. And one thing I also did was when I started cleaning the car out, and there's a video, by the way, a series of them, I think 7, that bring us up to speed on this car. So if you want to see those here on the Steve Maggs YouTube channel, just sniff out Police Project REM Charger. And keep in mind too, by the way, REM is a reference to sleep, rapid eye movement. Well, a 4-door Ram Charger, Max Wedge Dart, is a sleeper. Get it? Project REM Charger instead of Project Ram Charger. Kind of works, I don't know. Anyway, in the process of cleaning the car out, it had 65 pounds of dust, dirt, dead mice, rats, junk like that in it. Well, under the driver's front seat, I had my shop vac going and I heard some paper getting sucked around, and it was half of the build sheet. This is the other half. Thankfully, I heard the sound of something made of paper being drawn into the vacuum. I stopped everything, and this was the remains of the build sheet for this car. The good news is we can see most of it, and I had the good people at MMC Detroit, that's Dave Wise's outfit there in Detroit, MMC Detroit. They made me a brand new trim tag, this fender tag right here. I sent Dave Wise the images from this paper build sheet, and he basically filled in the dots and created a reproduction trim tag for the car. And keep in mind that MMC Detroit, Dave Wise, they make trim tags for everything, anything. Don't ask him to do anything funky or fraudulent. He won't go there. But if you have a real car and you can document it, but you need a trim tag, Dave Wise can help you. So he made me this trim tag. It's kind of cool. And for my 10 cents, it doesn't add any value to this car by any stretch, but I like that it's there, and it references the police suspension package and all of the good stuff that's baked into this car, and it's accurate and correct. Now, here's the thing. This right here is a 440. V8 engine. The 413 max wedge and this thing are very close cousins. If you go back in the Steve Maggs YouTube channel archives, you'll see us buy this engine from Winkle Auto Salvage up in Milford, New Hampshire. I paid, what, I think a couple $100 for this engine, something like that. It's supposed to run. If we look at the valve cover right here, it says, runs. This motor runs. Okay. Well, we're going to find out. And again, in this series of videos, we're going to begin now. This engine is going to be torn down, and item by item, we're going to look at what's good to go and what has to go. Now, keep in mind, this is a cast crank 440. What's that mean? We'll get to that in these videos. This is also not a max wedge, so it has very specific cylinder heads that we will need not to use off of this engine. But again, being an RB or a raised block type 440 engine, it's just fine to use as a max wedge clone engine. And what we're going to do inside of this thing is use a 440 source 513 cubic inch stroker crank piston and rod assembly, making this thing 100 cubes bigger than a 413. But again, the secret's between you and me, thus the rem charger sleeper element of this car. Now, this engine is a tall deck, and there is one thing that I was tempted to do. I was thinking maybe about trying and doing a 361 4-barrel clone that looked like a 361 right down to the air cleaner. This is the actual air cleaner from a police spec 4-barrel 361 in 1961-62. And it's kind of cool. You can see this round circle right here. That's where there would have been a sticker that said Commando 395 or something like that. On the front, it's actually got a recess for the air conditioner compressor, should the car have it. But inside is a surprise. Look at that. There's sort of a little, a cup, if you will, it's welded to the air cleaner lid. And I can only imagine this was there for maybe induction sound taming or something. It doesn't do anything. It's on the other side of the circle, but again, it's this weird welded on thing, you know, so it might be a Helmholtz baffle, you know, to help to calm down the sound of the induction where it wide open. But the other thing about this air cleaner, this is the same diameter and size as a max wedge. There are two of these on a max wedge engine. There are little differences. They don't have this weird circle, but otherwise, this is essentially a max wedge air cleaner lid a year or two before the max wedge even came out. So kind of weird. But with that said, a single 4-barrel 361 is cool, but we need to go all the way with the cross ram 413 type engine, a couple of Edelbrocks, an A&A transmission, aluminum cross ram, Mancini Racing, cast iron max wedge manifolds. It's all coming. So stay tuned to the channel. We'll be getting into that stuff. But for today, and for the next few days, what we're going to do is pull this 440 engine down and see what it's made of and what can stick around and what can't. Now, if you like this video, be sure to stay subscribed to the Steve Maggs YouTube channel and stick around, man. There's a lot more to come.